Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special session for the Higher Education Topical Interest Group. Technically, it's the Assessment in Higher Education TIG, but I think there's a conversation out there that we're going to take off that assessment piece because we want to be broader and more inclusive. I am Matt Feldman, and I'm going to be presenting today about the intersection of higher education and independent consulting. Hypothetically, you can see that up on your screen right now. But before we get into that, I want to pass it over to our, I guess, outgoing chair or all things higher ed TIG guy, Chad Key. Why don't you say a couple things, Chad, before we get started?
All things higher ed. That's a bit much, but I'll take it. So, welcome again to all of you who are here joining us, as well as those who may listen to this session at a later time. We're really excited about this opportunity to share more about the higher ed TIG, as well as the overlay with the independent consultant TIG. We know that in our higher ed TIG, the assessment in higher ed, as Matt named, is kind of maybe transitioning to changing the TIG or dropping the assessment piece, as we know that we have TIG members who are working in higher ed in lots of different spaces, faculty and evaluators, as well as doing assessment. And so we want to be inclusive in our language, as well as inclusive in our offerings. And so then that speaks to our work here and our decision to look at ways in which we can support through this session higher education and our higher ed TIG members and our work, and those who might be interested in moving into consulting, and those who are already doing it and looking for strategies to enhance their experiences. So welcome again, and looking forward to getting to know you all better and learning more from you as we continue to provide these opportunities.
Okay, thanks for that, Chad. So today I'm talking about the intersection of higher education and independent consulting. A lot of people watching this, a lot of you guys today may know, or you may not know, that I do a Thursday session almost every single Thursday, except for like the 4th of July and Thanksgiving, um, at noon Eastern or 11 o'clock in the Central Time Zone where I am. You can interpret that however you want to, or from wherever you are. We do a session on independent consulting every single week, and it's I want to say it's every single week. Whenever we do it, we always do it at noon. But this week's actually the only time we've ever not done it. We're doing it at 1 o'clock, but that's because there's a Summer Evaluation Institute session that I'll be presenting. Well, guess what? On independent consulting and how to get started within it. So anyway, so let's get started. There we go. Let's tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm Matt Feldman. Way back in the day, I started at SIUE, which is Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. That's Southern Illinois, right by St. Louis. In fact, I'm in Edwardsville, Illinois right now. I got my undergraduate degree in psychology and my master's degree in public administration. And then I went off to work at the Catholic University of America. And I was going to be a student affairs professional, right? And I was going to be a university center director. I don't think a lot of you guys know that. Some of you guys have known me for a while. That was my history. I was going to be a student affairs guy. So if you understand my connection with students, you'll understand that through that. Got a little disillusioned along the way and decided to go work for a big consulting firm. And I was working in the higher education consulting practice of Arthur Andersen, which at the time in the late 90s and early 2000s was what they called a big five firm. Many people don't remember Arthur Andersen now, but it would be the equivalent of like a KPMG or a PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of these big firms that does a lot of different services. We were specifically focused on higher ed, and that is the foundation for what I do today, combined with this other piece, going to Iowa State. Arthur Andersen folded. I lost my job as a consultant, and I said, well, this seems like a good opportunity to go work on my PhD. So I know Chad also graduated with his PhD from Iowa State from the same program, but though we didn't overlap, we missed each other by a couple of years, but a good institution. And that's actually where I learned about program evaluation. So between Arthur Andersen and Iowa State, that was the foundation for where I am today. I left Iowa State and said, I'm done with this whole program evaluation piece. I'm going to go become a director of institutional research, which is what I did at Blackburn College and then on to Fontbonne University. But it's like anything, program evaluation and independent consulting, I like to say it's like being in the mob. You can never leave. They just bring you right back in again. So they found me and they said, can you do this program evaluation? And well, like a lot of you, I like money and I was poor and I wanted windows for my new house. So it wasn't new to me. It was new to me anyway. It wasn't a brand new house. It was an old beat up house that needed new windows. So I said, okay, I'll do this program evaluation thing. Well, it turns out I knew what I was doing and they kept inviting me to new opportunities. And so next thing you know, I'd started Goshen. At the time, we called it Goshen Education Consulting, but it was founded based upon experiences working in higher ed and independent consulting. So today, Goshen Consulting, here's what you'll find on our website, that we empower teams to build, improve, and implement high quality programs. You can read the rest for yourself. Effectively, 80 to 90% of what we do is program evaluation. We're involved with strategic planning. We're involved with data collection and reporting that may be around big data sources that is not necessarily program evaluation, but we are very much program evaluators. The firm got started by just connecting with our local institutions. Now I'm only sharing with you the institutions that are higher education clients, but we actually have 38 clients and 56 projects currently. So we started with those local ones, but currently these are all of our higher education clients. This represents 20 different institutions, and we actually have proposals in with an additional 9 institutions. So this is my way of saying I have some background with this whole higher education consulting thing. My PhD is also in post-secondary education, focusing on higher education research. So that's, I don't know, kind of a weird thing to do, go to university to study universities and then research, but that was me because, why not? It was a lot of fun. So I did actually enjoy it quite a bit. So the conversation today is about the intersection, and I can't seem to get to the next slide. Let's try this. All right. Why is there an intersection? Why is there this whole idea of independent consulting? Why does it exist? Well, and I'm only reflecting on this from my understanding and my belief in the way I see things, the way that they've proceeded. I haven't done any research on this, so this is just my observations. But in many ways, program evaluation started with individual faculty and still oftentimes does start with individual faculty. At institutions like where I went at Iowa State, the faculty came together and they would create research centers. So I was a grad student in my doctoral program and a postdoc for the Research Institute for Studies in Education at Iowa State. And so that would be a university, like a university research center. And then they also gave way to corporate nonprofits like a RAND group or any of these other large groups like the RTI. I can't think of them all right now, but there's quite a few of them out there, and you'll see them at the AEA conferences. In fact, some of them are some of those professional services firms, like the people that would have been similar to Arthur Andersen, and so they're out there. But the reason why there's an intersection and why there's independent consulting, which in my mind is much smaller firms, usually one-person operations, is time and money. Because in all the situations, there's either a limit in an individual faculty member's time, their ability to work on these sorts of things, or its cost. University centers are wonderful, but they're often a lot more expensive than what an independent consultant will charge. And that, a lot of that has to do with, well, all the administration that goes on, the overhead, and the indirect cost rates. And corporate nonprofits are often the same way too, which is why these two things lead towards the opportunity for independent consultants. And what you're looking at here is a guinea pig in armor, and it is the mascot for the ICTIG, the Independent Consulting Topical Interest Group. Credit to Amy Germuth with that. She gave a presentation after a survey that she completed, and she said, we're all like guinea pigs in armor. And so we used that and we created a graphic, and that's where what I call, I don't think this is official, but I call him Icky, the guinea pig. But anyway, so independent consultants have created opportunities just through the fact that there is a limitation by the folks at the top, in that they're either expensive or they don't have the amount of time, or a combination of those things. And so that gives way to independent consultants. So the next question you should be asking yourself is, why would I be an independent consultant? Ooh, look at that grammatical error. I missed that one. Well, we did a survey in 2005, which was published in 2015. God, my math is wrong. 2015, and we published this in 2019 in the New Directions for Evaluation journal. Independence, people want to be free from all that discretion and all those bosses and all their rules and policies and things like that. They want the flexibility to pursue interesting work, the work that fills them up. And frankly, they want to make more money. And you can make more money by going independent as opposed to staying within the safe and secure job, which, by the way, I'm not entirely sure or agree that staying with an institution is safe and secure. We can get into that in a second. Speaking of money, this is data from a survey done in 2022 by the Independent Consulting TIG. And we asked one-person operations of individuals who were 100% focused on their independent consulting practice, what they made, total revenue, all of it, not after expenses. You'd have to cover all your expenses with this. So you can see. And I heard something like this when I first got started. I was really excited to repeat it. We did this in 2015, and then we did it. And then the TIG, I wasn't a part of the survey collection, but the TIG did it again in 2022, and we found that you'll get about 83,000. That's the median, right? And it goes up to about 145 median. So I have much more data on this with all the 25th and 75th percentiles and what's the highest and the lowest. But there was somebody in the 0 to 4, and this is legitimate. This wasn't just a joke, who made $1 million in their first couple years per year. They were subcontracting a lot, but as you can imagine. But anyway, I'm always encouraged to see this, because it seems to me like I could probably live off of that, and I can find a way to do all that, all those expenses and things within that. My operation's a little bit bigger now. We have 16 staff, about 12 FTE. And so we're not going to get into firms, because I feel like that's a whole other conversation. But in many ways, if you're thinking about an independent consulting practice, that's all. When I say that, a one-person operation, side hustle, there is opportunity there. However, there are things that people do worry about. And this is what our peers who were in their first couple of years of practice, actually, I think this is everybody, but this is what people worry about. They worry about that uncertainty of where the project's going to come from. However, usually for a lot of us, things always pop up. Let's see. The next one is having too much work and not enough balance. It's kind of ironic, and I'd love to hear from any of the other independent consultants who are here. This was your situation, but you think you're not going to find enough work. And next thing you know, you've taken on too much work. And how do I go about getting new work? Where is it coming from? I don't have those soft skills. I don't know how to quote unquote sell. Anyway. So let's say you're interested in going into this independent consulting business. This is when in the IC topic chats, the Thursday sessions, whenever I have a guest host, I always ask them this question. So if you had to start all over again, how would you get started? So,
right? I didn't know how I.
All right, so I thank you for that. Well, frankly, you want to start by starting. If you've ever started a new exercise program, or you went on a new dietary plan, or even when you went off to grad school, you weren't that person, right? You weren't that researcher, you weren't that marathon runner, you didn't know how to lift weight. You started by starting. You went out and you just kept showing up. And so that's what you have to do to become an independent consultant. It's not going to happen overnight. It's the sort of thing that you find those places to go and operate as an independent consultant. But so where are those places? You start by going where those other higher ed independent consultants hang out. Guess what? You're there. So that's good news. You found one of them. There are other places like the independent consulting TIG and the IC topic chats that we do on Thursdays. There are lots of examples of people who go there and they kind of just connect with people. And next thing you know, they're getting written into subcontracts with people and they've got the side hustle, and then the side hustle builds and builds. And next thing you know, you find yourself in a situation where you've got a consulting practice. Another place you should go is where are those ideal clients hang out? If you want to work within higher ed, who are those people that you want to work with? Who are those perhaps faculty or university administrators? Who are those folks? Where do they hang out? Where do they go? And I mean, oftentimes, what meetings do they go to that you can go connect with them? When you find these folks, ask for virtual coffee chats. I can tell you within the independent consulting TIG, I've never heard of anybody turning down an opportunity to connect with another person. It just doesn't happen. Everybody's very, very friendly. And there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of repeated questions. There's a lot of opportunities to ask those questions. I assume you're all AEA members. It doesn't cost you anything to click the little box that gets you into the IC TIG. And there you can ask questions through at one time we called it the e-group, the listserv, whatever we call it these days, the discussion board. So anyway, ask for those virtual coffee chats, connect with people. Here's the not so hidden secret, but nobody seems to know this. I'm not hiding it from anybody. I tell everybody all the time, go find grant writers, go find them. Where are they? Grant writers are always looking for evaluators. They're looking for evaluators to plug in a section within their grant proposal that's going in. They're looking for advice. I swear to God, I went to a Grant Professionals Association meeting and they called me a unicorn. Like, we've never seen, they acted like they'd never seen an evaluator before because we don't show up to meetings. There's so much opportunity out there untapped. I'm telling you this, I'm not trying to take anything. I feel like there's too much work out there. So there is work out there. You just need to go out and connect with people. And then feel free to connect around short-term and time-limited pro bono projects. It gives you an opportunity to learn something. It gives you an opportunity to demonstrate how great you are for people. And frankly, oftentimes you'll write program evaluation sections for grant writers, pro bono, and that'll be a good opportunity to connect with people too. And then most importantly, do very good work, because your marketing comes from your ability to show people how you are really good at this program evaluation thing that we all seem to know about. Here's the things I wish I knew when I was first starting out in 2011, when I first quit that job with Feldmann University. I wish people had told me this. Higher education projects take a very long time to get funded. I'm looking at my board over here to my right, and there are projects that we are anticipating that will get funded that we wrote in March of 2023, not 2024, March of 2023, and they have not been funded. If I find out today, and that would be a wonderful experience to find out today, that one of these projects gets funded, I don't anticipate getting paid for the first time until October, and perhaps not even January. So that is a nearly 18-month cycle. That's one of the longer ones. There are examples where things get funded much more quickly, but if you're planning on writing a program evaluation section to a proposal and getting it done within 6 months, that would be lucky. They take a very long time. Ensure the people that you're working with are committed to you. And the way I do that is I write up an MOU, very simple document. If anybody's interested, reach out to me. I'll share mine with you. In fact, I'm going to write an AEA 365 blog on MOUs, which will come out. We're going to do that in September. So on how to write one. But an MOU, that's an acronym, Memorandum of Understanding. Basically, it's like a contract, but not a contract. They sign it saying they understand, but basically it's committing them to you. It also gets you around that situation where the program gets funded and then they decide they want to go out and ask for 3 bids. And you've already done all this work. You're like, why do you need to go through get 3 bids? I've already done all the work. Well, this is a way to get around it. Once you do have a program funded, make sure you have a contract where everything's laid out and understand your contract. They're very important to getting paid. Sometimes I have a client that we just started up with, one of the people that was listed on the previous slide, and they said, we don't need a contract, we have an MOU. And I said, well, no, that's not a contract. And there are things I want to make sure you agree to, and frankly, you should know about me. I won't get into the details of that, but contracts are really important. Don't work without a contract. Plus, it demonstrates to others that you're professional. IRBs are real pains in the you know what. I don't need to explain that. I think most of you guys understand that. But IRBs can be the thing that slow things down. You need to be prepared for them. Understand your city training, CITI training. I don't charge for proposal development. I feel like it limits your opportunity to work with people. People don't want to work with, I mean, unless you're going to put in a whole lot of work, frankly, at a certain point, you can learn how to do these things fairly quickly. All right, here's some parting ideas. I like to give 5.5 ideas. This comes from a book that I read, and he always gave a half idea. So I'm completely copying that idea. First, put yourself out there, do that thing where you starting. And particularly if you have imposter syndrome. We all have imposter syndrome. I got news for you. I'm trying to put together a session with Tessie Katsambas. Tessie Katsambas is a former president of AEA. She owns a consulting firm that has over 100 staff members, and I have imposter syndrome around her. I oftentimes think, what the heck am I doing with 16 staff? I don't know what I'm doing. I have imposter syndrome just doing the things that I've been doing for years. We all have it. You got to put yourself out there. You're going to grow a thicker skin with time. Don't quit your day job right away. If you're listening to me and you're like, yes, I got to go do this thing. Make sure you got some work that's with contracts before you do that. It's perfectly fine to do subcontracts and do small side hustle as long as you're upfront about it. I think everybody's okay with it, particularly if you're able to create a connection, and they understand. Most people will be pretty cool with it. Find those colleagues, those subcontractors, those grant writers. So find the people that you want to connect with. Marketing is not sales. People get anxious around sales. Your marketing is, the best marketing is just connecting with people and doing great work. I told you how to do marketing. I didn't call it that. When I was saying, how do I get started? That's marketing, okay? Sales is like that slimy stuff that people do on used car sales. You know, you don't have to worry about that. That's not, you will probably never have that situation. You do need to understand how to ask for what you're worth. Another conversation when you get to that point. But, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with starting off a conversation with somebody's like, hey, I want to work with you. And then you're like at that awkward stage, just say, how much do you have in your budget? Because they have a budget or they're thinking about it. And if they start to play this game, that's fine. There's IC topic chat sessions on how to do that. So take a look at that. I'm going to show you those links in just a second. Niche, niche, niche. Or if you're younger than 50, you say niche, 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 but I say niche. Do the things, I have a session on niche. Do the things that you're good at, that you enjoy, and where there's money. And where in the areas where the world needs, right? But the point is if you stay focused on things that you're good at, that where you're having fun and where there's money, the rest of it will take care of itself. Okay, stay focused on that. Don't don't get distracted. If you're a higher education person, don't go off and start doing health education, right? Stuff that's like outside of your area. Don't get involved with international development unless that's what you do within higher ed. Don't do, I can do everything. At a certain point, you want to stay focused because that's where your clients are. And the more often you hang out with one set of clients and then their colleagues, they're learning more and more about you and they're talking about you. And so you're creating inertia. If you're spreading yourself across a whole bunch of different clients that don't interact, you're not niching. And then listen to that voice. There's that little voice, we all have it, that says, I don't like that. I'm not good at this. I'm not getting paid at this. I don't like these people. Listen to that voice because it's telling you the way that you should be operating. All right, next steps. How do you put yourself out there? This Thursday, if you happen to be in Washington, D.C. at the Summer Evaluation Institute, I'm doing a session called Consulting Skills for Evaluators, where I talk about this for 3.5 hours with my good friend Laura Keene. Thankfully, she's there because we get to drink water, rest, and we play off each other. She's I call her my conference wife. My actual wife is my partner with Goshen Consulting, and so she seems pretty cool with that. I was like, but I have a conference wife. I just want to make sure you know. She seems pretty okay with that. We have weekly sessions on Thursdays at noon. I'm going to put this link. You can see it's hyperlinked, but you can't click that because it's on your screen. But you can see it. It's a tiny URL. Just type in IC topic chat. But that's every Thursday at noon, except for this Thursday. This is actually literally the first time we've ever gone any other time than noon Eastern. But it'll be at noon Eastern. This week, we're going to be talking about the 5.5 ideas that you should be getting from the workshops. So actually, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about yet. I'll put that together on the plane tomorrow. There's a YouTube archive of all the IC topic chats. And I said it already, there's 200 videos out there. So feel free to use that tiny URL there. And again, I'll put this all into the chat once I stop talking in a second. Next, we have just, I think last week, got confirmation that our pre-conference workshop was picked up again. And that's the Introduction to Independent Consulting workshop. And it's everything I just talked about for the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And we take 6 hours to do it with people. There's likely there'll be a chance that I do this over days and we do this as a private session. We put it out there. If you're interested, let me know. I do that with Laura as well. Frankly, if you're interested in doing this, show up to these higher ed TIG sessions, show up to other independent consulting things, sign up to be a part of things, put yourself out there, literally. All right, finally, I know we're going to be having other upcoming higher ed TIG sessions. We're kind of using this model of the IC topic chats as a model for the higher ed TIG. So, but with that, I'm gonna pass it back over to Chad. You want to say goodbye, and then we'll stop recording, and then we'll get into the chat function of this whole session today. Go ahead, Chad.
Sure. Thank you, Matt, for an awesome session and sharing those kind of things to do, things not to do, or how to prepare to be successful in this world of independent consulting. So thank you for sharing and providing that guidance. As
oh, wait, Chad, you're here. Why don't we do this? Now you have a firm. What's your firm named again?
Whitworth Key Consulting.
Okay, Whitworth Key. And so you've been around for how long? You're in it. That's an independent consulting practice.
It is. Well, so we now have 9 employees. We've been around since 2016.
And you've had excellent academic preparation. I know that because we both went and had the same faculty members at Iowa State, right? Iowa State University. So let me ask you the questions I ask other people.
Okay.
If you had to start all over again, what would you do differently? Or what would you do? How would you get started? Starting today, you have zero, you have wonderful skill set, but you have no connections, you have no staff, you have no clients. How do you get started?
Yeah, I think the one thing for me is, like just being prepared for the ups and downs of work or not having work. Where I was working for a consulting firm in Maryland. And so one strategy that I used in that process was I was directing 2 projects for that firm, and the president of the company allowed me to continue working on those projects as a consultant. So we converted my FTE role to an independent consulting. So I would offer that up to the group as an ask. If you are currently working full time for someone and leading projects, and I'm sure you all are doing great work, then those companies want to keep you, especially for the life of the projects that you're on, to minimize the transition and turnover. But I think that even in doing that was a great strategy, but there still was an ebb and flow in where's the next project. And so having a pipeline in place, or even thinking about a pipeline, and putting in the work. So it's kind of like doing this dual effort of continuing to manage those projects while networking to establish more. And that is the thing that I was not doing as much of, is thinking, the next year when these projects end, what does that look like? And where would I shift to lead other projects? So building a pipeline while working at the same time.
So you have a higher education consulting practice. Is now a good time to start one? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're doing. Like when I started the company, much of our work in higher ed was centering or supporting colleges and universities around advancing their DEI efforts. And at the time in 2016, that was certainly a welcomed resource for colleges and universities. And many folks were asking the question, how do we create inclusive environments? And so our service was to help them identify those gaps. So in 2016, that was certainly good timing. Now, with the political climate and a lot of the challenges and pushback around DEI, DIA, will require a little bit more work. I would say it might not be as an easy entry point. But I think it's good timing, but you do need to think about what are the needs. And that was one of the bullet points that I listed here too, Matt, was knowing the trends that's happening in higher ed and understanding what those needs are. And do you have the services and resources to support colleges and universities in addressing those needs? And you can identify those needs through attending conferences. And so I continued attending conferences that were higher ed centered, and that allowed me to keep a pulse on what the needs are and to cater my services to support those needs if I could. Again, I think Matt, you offered a great suggestion around knowing what you do and sticking to that. So I wasn't trying to do all things. And then I think another way is, the journals, articles, what are people questioning and researching that might align with your service offering?
Okay, I have more questions, but I'm going to stop the recording now. So for everybody out there watching this, it's been great having you here. Everybody else who's live and with us, stick around.